Every episode of Wham Bam Dashcam combines 20 exclusive dashcam videos you won't find anywhere else with the detailed accounts of the drivers who captured them. Buckle up and get ready for another rough ride. Keegan's father was headed home from the gym in his Kia Optima during a heavy rainstorm when the driver of an SUV in the passing lane tapped the brakes before losing control. As the SUV hydroplaned across the highway, Keegan's father was unable to avoid colliding with it. The impact sent his Kia across the shoulder and into the ditch. While the SUV did the same, Keegan's father called 911 before checking on the other driver. Incredibly, nobody was seriously hurt in this incident. He's now waiting to hear back from his insurance provider. Keegan told us he and his dad watch our videos together, and our channel inspired them both to install dash cams. If you need one for your ride, you'll find our recommended models in the video description. Nigel watched a new driver turn too shallowly before taking too long to straighten out and ending up in a ditch. The driver of the white Toyota went way too far into the intersection before failing to correct in time to avoid going off-road. Thankfully, the occupants were able to crawl out of the windows and weren't seriously injured. Nigel told us the driver's parents were the other passengers in the car and they were comforting her while they waited for a tow truck to retrieve the car from the ditch. Mike and his friends were headed out on a weekly grocery run when a distracted rideshare driver rear-ended his Honda Odyssey without ever slowing down. After the white Volkswagen plowed into the back of Mike's stopped minivan, the impact knocked the dashcam power out, ending the recording. Mike told us that the police report mentions the other driver admitted to being distracted. Somehow, neither Mike nor any of his friends were injured, and his minivan still drove in spite of the damage. When Mike spoke with an insurance agent, she insisted this meant it should be repaired rather than totaled. He laughed and showed her these damage photos, but she insisted he take the minivan into a repair shop. When he told the shop receptionist that he was there for an assessment, she helpfully informed him that he was scheduled for repair. It only took one look from a shop employee before he told Mike, "There's no way that's repairable." He was shocked that none of the occupants had been hurt. Mike is now waiting for a settlement check for his wrecked Odyssey. Alex is a rideshare driver who was leaving the Los Angeles International Airport when a black Suburban sideswiped him as the driver went straight from a turn-only lane. Alex told us the speeding driver tried to flee the scene, but he chased him down. The black SUV eventually pulled over, and when Alex spoke with him, he found out he was uninsured. That probably explains why he'd fled after the collision. As usual, Alex's dashcam footage made it clear what had happened, leaving no opportunity for the Suburban driver to pretend the impact had been Alex's fault. Arrow was driving his brother's car, which had just failed an inspection. It's the red Mazda 626 we can see ahead. His brother was driving this Nissan Leaf right behind him, keeping an eye on the Mazda in case it did anything crazy. Okay, I'd say that qualifies. Arrow told us that some loose front-end parts were found during the inspection, but they hadn't realized just how serious the issue was until a wheel decided to go a different way. Thankfully, Arrow and his brother had enough tools between them to get the wheel back on using lug nuts borrowed from the other three before limping the Mazda the rest of the way home. Amazingly, this video comes from a completely different submitter who was driving in the same Finnish city as our last submitter. Jay was about to merge left when a trucker coming up behind him merged right and almost hit him. The semi-truck almost shoved Jay's Peugeot 208 into the guardrail as the trucker completely ignored his honking. Jay slammed his brakes and nearly stopped to avoid being sideswiped, but there was also traffic behind him. Thankfully, there was no contact, and Jay was able to continue on his way, shocked by the scary close call. Jay wanted to remind our viewers that you should never ram someone off the road to make your exit. Wanda watched the driver of a white Honda Civic strike a passing Honda Fit before fleeing the scene.
running.
The collision was the result of an improper right on red when the Civic driver failed to yield to the blue hatchback. Wanda pulled over and provided the victim with a copy of her dashcam footage. Thankfully, they hadn't been hurt. Now, before you run to the comments to tell me I missed an opportunity to play the Honda bump jingle, no, I didn't. This wasn't a Honda bump. That's when a Honda rolls into a stopped vehicle, either parked or in traffic. Sorry. Hawkeye and his wife were on their way to enjoy a movie when they watched the SUV driver right in front of them casually run a red light. When the left turn light turned green, the white Volkswagen SUV started moving. The SUV driver must have seen this out of the corner of their eye as they wrapped up their text message before instinctively hitting the gas pedal. At least, that's our theory anyway. In spite of Hawkeye's honking, the SUV barreled through the intersection, nearly T-boning a turning SUV without seeming to notice. Hawkeye told us they just laughed and kept on going. Jaden was 5 minutes from his destination when the driver of a red SUV turned across the road in front of him without warning. Jaden honked and swerved, but this wasn't enough to avoid a collision. When he went to check on the occupants of the red SUV, he discovered the driver was already calling 911. She told him that she hadn't seen him coming. Thankfully, it sounds like there weren't any serious injuries, but Jaden's Mitsubishi Galant was totaled by the impact. He wanted to shout out his mother for showing up faster than the first responders, as well as his son, Jaden Jr. See the giant flashing sign on the left side of this highway? You'd think that, along with a few dozen bright orange barrels, would be enough to warn drivers of a closing lane, but I guess not. David watched the driver of a white SUV slam into more than one of those orange barrels before slamming on the brakes and swerving, nearly causing multiple collisions. David says, "Construction zones contain surprises. That's why you should slow down in them." That's good advice, David. Thankfully, the other drivers managed to avoid hitting the white SUV, and David continued with heart racing. Peaky Fox is back with another submission. She was on her way home from work when a Jeep Grand Wagoneer sideswiped her as it merged all the way across the highway. Peaky Fox told us she had expected the SUV to merge into the travel lane, but not to continue into the passing lane. When she stopped and talked to the driver, he didn't have his insurance information with him. Thankfully, he was able to call his wife and get his insurance information from her. Peaky Fox told us his insurance provider paid $3,700 to repair her Ford Fusion. As I said before, Peaky Fox has sent us several other videos we've featured in previous episodes. I'll put links to a couple of them at the end of this one, just in case you haven't seen them. Angus encountered another Tesla behaving badly when the driver of a Model Y backed out of a parking spot right into his Subaru Forester. That Tesla man can't drive! The Tesla driver tried more than once to keep backing up, even after hitting Angus's Subaru. As if that wasn't bad enough, the Tesla driver then sped off, turning a dumb mistake into a hit and run. Sadly, Angus's dashcam didn't catch the Tesla's license plate number, but he told us at least half a dozen witnesses helped him remember it so he could report it to the police. Thankfully, he wasn't injured in the fender bender. This submitter was on her way to pick up her kids from school when another driver with very important things to do on his cell phone rolled into her Chevy Equinox while she waited at a traffic light. My favorite part of this video is when the driver of the Dodge Charger raises his phone up so we can clearly see why this collision occurred. This, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why you shouldn't text and drive, even at a red light. To make things worse, the other driver then refused to provide his insurance information. But when a family member who'd witnessed the collision threatened to call the police, he finally gave them up. Rachel was headed to Mount Vernon with her family when she witnessed a crazy close call that almost involved her Kia Telluride. As an SUV driver cut through traffic to reach another lane, they almost pulled in front of a passing hatchback that threaded the needle with inches to spare. Rachel told us she installed the dashcam we recommended just 6 weeks before this happened. She's glad that if a collision had occurred, she would have had a record of the incident in crystal clear 4K. Look at that, another submission from the same city as the last one. Fabian was waiting in traffic when he watched the driver in front of him decide it was time for her to go. After the Toyota clipped the Honda in front of it, the impact was enough to shove the Honda into an SUV ahead of it. Fabian stopped to check on the Toyota driver, and that's when she asked him what had happened. Fabian told her what he'd witnessed, but she said she thought the light had been green. Once first responders arrived, Fabian provided them with his dashcam footage before leaving the scene. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Rahil was driving on a service road that passes through the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport when he was passed by two drivers that were both exceeding the speed limit. Keep your eye on the left side of the road ahead. At the end of a long straightaway, a motorcycle cop was watching for speeders, and he found some. Rahil watched as the officer pulled over one of them, the black Nissan that had been leading the pack. Rahil told us this road has a lot of twists and turns as it makes its way through the airport, so it's not a safe place to be driving fast anyway. He was happy he'd chosen to obey the speed limit. Keith was waiting to turn left when he watched an oncoming pickup run a red light and T-bone a turning SUV. Keith said it didn't look like the pickup driver even tried to brake before slamming into the SUV, which had a green light for a protected left turn. Thankfully, the impact was on the quarter panel and not directly on the doors. The occupants of the SUV were shaken, but incredibly, nobody was seriously injured by the collision. Keith provided his information and a copy of his dashcam video to the responding police officers. Keith told us he loves Wham Bam videos and watches them regularly. If you appreciate our content too, be sure to subscribe so you'll see every new episode in your feed. When Justin honked at a red light runner, he literally scared them off the road. The SUV driver had made a right on red without stopping first, which is illegal, and without yielding to other traffic, which is also illegal. Justin honked as he slammed on the brakes, prompting her to swerve into the ditch. Hilariously, Justin said the driver of the BMW SUV then threw her hands in the air as if he'd been at fault for having a green light. Justin just kept on heading home. We do need to point out something interesting that careful analysis of Justin's dashcam footage uncovered. This BMW actually has functional turn signals. They must be aftermarket. Oscar was on his way home from work when he encountered another red light runner, only this one headed straight across the intersection in front of his Toyota Prius.
What the idiot?
Before you jump into the comments to point out that Oscar's light was yellow, I'll go ahead and mention this fact proves the other light was still red. In fact, this footage shows the light didn't turn green until after the collision. Argue all you want that Oscar should have stopped, but that doesn't change the fact that the other driver ran a red light. Of course, she immediately claimed that her light had been green until Oscar told her he had a dash cam. After that, Oscar said she had nothing else to say. Once they'd exchanged insurance information, they went their separate ways. Denise sent us this adorable footage from when a couple of ducks wandered into traffic before a Good Samaritan took it upon herself to help them safely cross the road. What's funny is that the female duck changed her mind and headed back after the male duck had started following her. Denise's footage ends here, but she told us both ducks eventually made it safely across. Here are 2 more episodes featuring previous submissions from Peaky Fox, including one from so long ago we hadn't switched from red to blue for our caption headings. Did you know we've been making Wham Bam Dashcam videos for over 3 years now? I feel old.
Wham Bam, we got a Patreon, man. Please support the show.